Hey guys, so today we have Rodolfo Diaz on the show. Rodolfo is a studio manager and photographer at Chil Studios in Atlanta. But before we kind of get into how he got to becoming a manager at Chil Studios and becoming a photographer, kind of want to take it back to where you started, man. Where did how'd you get into the arts and what kind of led you there? Was it something that you always were passionate about? Did you always know you wanted to be a photographer, work in the studio, or kind of take us back to the beginning of this, maybe go back to where you're from, kind of your background, what your
Yeah,
work was in.
absolutely. So as for photography in my life, no, I had no idea that I wanted to do it. Um, Growing up, I had kind of like a very opposite of what I'm living now kind of life. I was not doing well with school. I had dropped out of school my senior year,
Mm.
and I was essentially just like kind of couch hopping with my friends. I got really tired of that. I started thinking about my life, like, is this what I wanted? Like what was gonna, all this was gonna lead to basically me possibly getting into more bad things or going to jail or, something that just ideally wouldn't be where I want to be right now.
Was this senior year in what, high school?
High school, yeah. That
Oh,
was like, I mean, I had essentially been done with school before that, because like I wasn't really like trying anymore. Like I wasn't really showing up to school. I was going to like a continuation school. It's called Options for Youth, and I would only go twice a week for an hour. um, and that was like my schooling. But like I wasn't really. There was days I wasn't even showing up to that. Again, like I was just on the block. Like I
what
wasn't doing anything with my
what
life. Like
what made you drop out, or what made you feel that way about school?
I just like all my life, man. I had like trouble like academically. Like I just did not like being told how to like live essentially, and that's what it really kind of felt like, because these people were like, you have to do this, you have to do that to do this in order to get here, in order to get there. I didn't really like want to accept that for some reason. um and so yeah, I just had like a lot of trouble with that. And of course, like me myself as a person, like I was lazy, and like I was like just more into, again, like being on the block, hanging out with my friends, you know
Mm.
nothing important essentially. But at the time, like I just was young, I didn't know any better. um but yeah, so going back to the story though, I came to Atlanta, Georgia when I was like 18 years old. I started working in construction, and that is essentially all I did up until a year ago. um
Mm.
and photography kind of came in like the second or third year that I was here in Georgia.
Yeah.
um I
Wait, how'd you even get to Atlanta to begin with? What were you? Were you said you were couch hopping around, in your
Oh yeah, I mean, I was couch hopping,
friend's
but
house.
like, yeah, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I was couch hopping, and then essentially, like, I got tired of that, and I had already spoken to my sister like prior to like the fallout with my mom and like leaving my house and everything, and she had offered me to like go live with her. Of course, me being me, I was like, no, like I'm not. Why? Like I'm not leaving California. Like I'm staying here. Like I don't want to go to like the other side of the United States. Like I don't. I wanted to stay there. So I was really set on trying to like find a way to stay in California. But like again, like no diploma. Like I had just dropped out. Like I had no car, no nothing. Like it would have been very, very, very hard. And like I said, I don't even think I would have gone down that path. I probably would have gone down another path, whether that be, you know,
Right. And
still
and
on the block or whatever that would
and
have
did
been.
and did you decide to leave the house, or did you have like not had best relationship with your
Yeah,
mom?
I had a lot of trouble with my mom, and so like I was basically just fed up with everything, and I mean she was fed up with me too. So I essentially just took the choice to leave myself, and I left.
How old were you?
I was 18,
Okay.
18 years old, so I guess I was technically old enough to do it, right? But yeah, but like I said, like I just stayed with friends and stuff like that, and like that really didn't work out. I also felt like something deep down inside of me was just like, this isn't right. So that's when I like reached out back to my sister, and I was like, hey, you know what, like I will go out there. I
Mm.
basically was ready for a change of life. Like, over there, obviously, excuse me, from California to Atlanta, Georgia is quite the jump.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I went to school and everything in California. So like when I came over here, I knew absolutely nobody. I didn't know like anything at all. Um, it was basically just a whole brand new start for me, you know? Um, and it was really rough. You know, the first year definitely was like super rough on me mentally and physically because I was working in a super, super demanding job. I was working in brick masonry.
Mm-hmm.
And that really like humbled me a bit in the sense that like I did not want to do that for the rest of my life. But at the time I didn't know about, I still hadn't gotten into photography or anything like that. I just knew like this construction thing was not like what I wanted to do, not what I wanted to be in. Um, so that back to what I was saying though, like I think my second or third year I was here in Atlanta, my sister got married and her photographer had an assistant who got bit by a mosquito. And
Mosquito?
so, yeah, mosquito. So she
Okay.
had an allergic reaction. So she
Oh
had to like
wow.
leave the wedding. And so he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, you know, like you're like decently tall. Like, do you mind holding these lights for me?" And you know, it was my sister's wedding, so I wasn't gonna be like no. So I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." Um, I held some lights for him, and after that, he was like, "Hey, like, have you ever thought about like photography, like as a career, or have you ever been interested in like learning photography?" And I was like, "No, not at all,
You're like,
never.
no.
No." Um, but it's really funny though because like as I have grown now, I've realized that like I think photography kind of definitely was for me. I always had like a joy for it. I just didn't know it was there. You know, like I really enjoyed imagery, well
Mhm.
put imagery. You know, like I would see like photos like you know like on Tumblr and MySpace and stuff like when you know back in the day. And you know you
Right.
would see like these like really crazy like city photos or like these really nice photos of like the beach, and I'm like, wow, this is like crazy, you know.
Mhm.
And like I said, I had always like in the back of my mind, I guess I knew I liked it. I just didn't know how to like, you know,
Mhm.
I just knew different things back in the day.
Okay.
So,
So
yeah, I
so
went,
you're at the wedding, and then this
yeah,
guy.
yeah, he offered me a job. And at the time, of course, I was still doing construction. Thought it was going to be like a full-time thing. Like I would work with him like every day or something like that. That's what I understood.
Mhm.
But it wasn't like that at all. It was just like every other weekend or, you know, like it was mainly like 2 to 3 times a month, maybe, sometimes less than that. But yeah, so I just started off doing just lights. All I would do was like hold lights and just like assist him like with anything he needed.
Mhm.
Um, I think after like the fifth or sixth wedding I helped him with, he asked me if I wanted to like practice like with a camera, and of course, like I've never used a camera before in my life, like, but I was interested though, you know, I really wanted to learn. So he gave me like this 5-minute tutorial that is like essentially what I think is the only training I've had in my life
Okay.
with photography. He just showed me the three main things, which is ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. He explained to me what they all kind of did. And he told me, look, there's like a meter in your camera and it's like too far to the left, it's an underexposed photo. Too far to the right, it's overexposed. Again, I didn't know what any of that meant, but he said, just try to get it in the middle. So that's all I did. Like the whole wedding, I was just taking photos and like I was just looking in the meter and just trying to get it centered.
Mhm.
So that happened. We finished that wedding up. The like next couple of days, he called me. He was like, "You exposed these really well. Like they look really good." He's like, "The only problem is like all the crops are like really bad." Of course, like I didn't understand any of that. Like I was just taking pictures, and I again was just looking at the meter. Like I just knew one thing. So
Mhm.
he was like, "If you want, like I could teach you like a little more if you still want to keep taking photos." And like I was addicted. Like I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Like let's do it." Um, so he just like after that he just gave me some more pointers like whenever we were doing like photos. I essentially went from a lighting assistant to like a second shooter. um,
Mhm.
and so he would just tell me like, hey, like don't cut off like hands, don't cut off like neck, like you know at the head, don't cut off like certain things, you know, just so it looks better. um, then from that I actually got really good enough to the point where he was just letting me take Like I was essentially just like a lead photographer. Like I would go do weddings by myself.
Mm. So he
Um,
basically became like your mentor. He kind of like
in a
brought
way,
you
yeah,
under,
yeah,
brought you under.
yeah. He definitely brought me up. Shout out to David Scruggs. I don't know if he's ever going to watch this, but if he does, thank you so much for letting me discover what I want to do with my life. You know, because if it wasn't for him, I don't know. I'd probably just be like, yeah, construction's cool. Like I don't know.
David Crooks. He sounds. I think I've heard of that name somewhere. I don't know where.
Yeah, he's done a good amount of weddings in Atlanta. I mean, that's like kind of what he does. Well, he's definitely dedicated to it now, but when
Mm.
I was working with him, he still had like another job. But he was like the type of guy that was like literally he would work. He had his full-time job, but he was also doing like full-time photography.
Wow.
Like he was a really busy guy.
Yeah.
Um,
And what I find amazing is that just like that random encounter with him like literally changed your
yeah,
life. You
man.
know.
Yeah. It was like literally. I still remember, man. Like I was. He had like taken me to his place and he was like showing me like a wedding album and stuff like that. And then he was explaining to me like just like how the whole business works and everything like that. And he like kind of went he like left downstairs and like I was just sitting there like, going through his like catalog and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, like this is actually what I want to do with my life. Like this is like amazing. Like I really enjoy this.
That's,
Um
that's awesome. So you went from being lost in a working construction, not liking it, it being a hard job, and then to finding out that you really like photography and that you're good at it, and eventually becoming the lead photographer and going to these weddings and starting shooting.
Well, I don't know how good I was, but I mean, it was just enough to where he trusted me. I had already done like more than 15 weddings like with him. So
That's a good amount.
it started off with just like the small ones, like just
Mm,
doing the lead for small ones, and then eventually like I did do like a couple of bigger ones. Um, and I was enjoying it at the time still. Like I didn't know about any other category of photography. Like like I said, I
mm.
didn't understand any of it. Like I just knew what I was doing. Like I said, I just really like to take pictures. So to me, like I thought that was cool.
And
But
meanwhile, you're still working.
I'm still doing construction. Still doing construction.
And were you thinking that, hey, at that point, we're thinking, I want to get out of this and better get
Oh
my.
yeah, from the
Oh.
beginning, man. Like I never liked it. Like I'm not gonna down the job. Like I think there was a lot of ups to the job, but there was more downs than ups.
Mm,
Um, Work ethic for sure. I really appreciate a
yeah.
lot. And I think construction, like I said, construction is what gave me that work ethic.
Yeah.
Because if I worked at McDonald's, I wouldn't have like half the work ethic that I'd have now.
Mm.
Um,
It probably makes everything else that you do seem so easy.
Essentially, yeah, man. Like
Right?
it really does. Like I think people don't realize it, because most people don't have this transition like I had. Like I literally went from working outside in the sun for 10 to 12 hours every day, to an indoor job at a studio, which is like really fucking
and taking
as
pictures.
opposed to being exposed to sun, being exposed to cold. Not only that, but like of course, like you like not all construction jobs are the safest. Like I know a lot of people who got hurt. A lot of people got hurt right in front of me. Like I thankfully never got hurt or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. But yeah, it was definitely, like I said, just not what I wanted to do.
And did you find any? I don't know. There's a lot of people. At least I did in the beginning when I started photography. I kind of did it in a way. 'Cause, I mean, it started as a hobby, but then became something that like I felt like I could express myself in a way, and it kind of helped me. It made me feel happy, and it kind of I wouldn't say distracted me from my problems, but it did kind of like I found a way to like soothe.
Especially for you.
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah, that's
that.
exactly how I feel, man. Like I was genuinely just like excited because I felt like I had found my passion in life. I was like, this is it. And like, of course, like prior to that, like I had like growing up all through school, like everyone would be like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, no idea, no idea, no idea. And like up until then, like I still like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I was gonna go to school or not. Like I probably wasn't going to finish. Um, but yeah, like I said, this came along and it definitely has changed my life like quite a bit. Um,
So then you're shooting weddings, and then
Yes.
how did you get into the other type of styles and of photography, and
Um, I
cityscape,
yeah.
rooftoping, things like that?
Yeah, so I didn't really like have Instagram. I was using like 500px. Well, not using it, but that's where I was like seeing like other styles of photography. I just didn't know like understand categories or anything like that. I thought like photos were just photos and that's it. But no, that's not the case at all. Of course. Um, so I started seeing like a lot of like really cool like cityscape photos, and I had always since of like a really young age like been super attracted to the city. So naturally when I saw these photos, I was like, wow, like this is fucking great. Like, like I want to do this.
Hmm.
So I started going to Atlanta and stuff like that. And then I had already made an Instagram. So I started attending like Instagram meets, stuff like that. And I slowly started like meeting a couple of people in the community. Um, so like that, it was kind of starting to like look better for me essentially. Um, I had already purchased my first camera. It was a full frame camera. I actually didn't use it. I bought it and didn't use it for like a year
Oh,
because like
wow.
I was still like, I mean, I was using it, but only for essentially weddings. Like I wasn't doing anything else with it. And of course, like weddings were only here and there kind of thing.
Hmm.
But like I would take photos of like certain things like in my backyard or like just like practice. Like I was just being curious essentially, but I never really like stepped out and took it anywhere. But after like about a year or so of like all that, like I was just like, okay, like it's time to do something with this damn camera. So that's like when I again decided to step out of my comfort zone, I guess, and that's when I started like going to Atlanta, going to the Instagram meets. Like I said, I met a bunch of great people. Some of them taught me a lot of things. uh,
Hmm.
with like just in general like street photography and stuff like that because I didn't really understand the category.
Right.
I just knew that I had an attraction to that, and they
And you
kind of
did
helped
and you
me.
did street photography for a while.
Yeah. For I've been doing it now 4 years, going on 5. Um, and like I said, it's just been quite a journey for me from the beginning till now. And like I said, it's not anywhere
Right.
near the end for me. Like this is just kind of like the beginning.
Yeah. And what was so you when you were out there, was it just you kind of want to go out there and meet up people that meet other photographers, or was it just because you just wanted to shoot? Were you looking for a community? Was it, or you trying to
I
learn,
definitely was
network?
looking. I was looking for like a community for sure. Because like I said, like I didn't have any friends and I didn't really know anybody. So I kind of wanted to like meet people and just see what just dive more into like the photography world. And like I said, like doing that like was I think what made me more shift more towards like okay like maybe I should like take this up and do something with it, like make a career out of it.
Right.
um
You started seeing other people that were freelancers working in the
yeah, and they
studios.
were doing these things and they were doing like taking like getting jobs that I was just like wow, this is like I want to do stuff like that, like how
Right.
can I, how is it that I do that? And they're like, they started like I said, people would talk to me and tell me like, look, just like go like on Instagram, post things or send things out to companies. um just try to essentially get somebody to give you some work, you know.
And did you
um
do that?
yeah, I would like I've always really been into fashion, so like I would just like buy clothes and I'd get my little brother to model them and I would send them to them or just like a friend or anybody and I would send them out to like just like I really would do it just like with smaller companies. Like I wasn't gonna send anything out to like you know Kith or just like some huge brand. No, like I would just do like little small local brands. But like
Mhm.
that's really like how it worked honestly because like they were like yeah like they would some of them use them for their websites, some of them used them for social media. And then of course like it was cool because it was like it was different at the time with Instagram, so like I think more people were open to like yeah like we'll give you some work. Like nowadays it's so saturated, it's kind of like complicated to do that now.
So how would you stand out now if you're trying to get into the photography business? Well, whether that's in a studio or freelancing, what's your top, advice for that on the upcoming photographer?
Upcoming photographer, I would say networking. more than anything. Get to know like the surround everybody that's in your city that's doing things,
Mm.
or hanging around them, or just start to shift towards getting to know people. I think that's probably the most important thing. Talent, of course, is good to have, but realistically, I can tell you, like, there's a lot of people that are getting jobs out here that don't have the greatest talent in the world, but it's just because they have that connection with this person. So that just kind of like goes down the grapevine from there, essentially. So
Man,
yeah,
I agree.
definitely don't be afraid to like go out and get to know people, or go out and learn, essentially.
Where can they find them? Let's say they're watching this right now. Like, what's the first thing they could do? Like, search where can they find these meetups or things like that?
Meetups, they're everyone does them nowadays. It's not, well, not right now, actually, during with what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you go, like, Instagram is like super like populated with them. I think you could probably find one every other weekend, honestly. Um, Depending what city you live in, of course. Here in Atlanta, like, I see like there's so many clubs that like do like photo walks and stuff like that. I
Hmm.
actually work. The studio I work for also has like a side branch. It's called 404.
Hmm.
It's essentially like a community-based brand. So we collaborate with a bunch of other artists. It's not just about us, essentially. Like, it's kind of like about everybody. We
Hmm.
do meetups ourselves, actually. I know you've been to a couple. We used to go back in the day, actually, before I started working for them. But
Yeah,
now,
man, there used to be
now,
a lot. I feel like there used to be a lot more. I mean, that's kind of
yeah, yeah,
how I started. Man, I started shooting with my iPhone, bro. And people
yeah.
were like, "Hey, man, just shoot that with the camera." I think you even asked me that once, and I was like, "No, that was like my iPhone. Like all these pictures here, iPhone only."
Yeah.
And yeah,
That was kind of like, it was like a thing, and now like iPhone cameras like aren't even that bad. Like, I still wouldn't use one, obviously, but like it's not a bad option either. They're pretty good nowadays.
mhm.
Of course, I still prefer a camera,
Obviously. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
but
And so then,
but
so you guys have meetups. You suggest for people to go to these
yeah,
meetups
like
and network.
attend meetups, man. Like,
Yeah.
attend meetups, attend or even like workshops too.
Mm.
Anything that just like involves community, I think, is just good to be around.
It helps.
Um,
It helps you to.
yeah, it helps to like open you up and like just like give you an idea of like what it is, what
Yeah,
it is all
the
about.
first time I realized a degree was pretty much worthless for the arts, like photography, videography, cinematography, was like I got an internship at Right Media, and and I remember the first time the first day I worked there was like he was like one of the PAs told me he's like I was talking to him, he's like you know how many people here have degrees. He's like I was like no. Well, he said he's like all of us do. He's like, but you know how many if they asked us if we had a degree, like it's like nobody was asked if they had a degree. They just looked at our portfolio.
Right.
And this kind of goes back to what you were talking about, like view networking, because the really reason I got in is because I mean I sent like a cold email to the CEO or whatever, and I was like, hey, I was like, I really want an opportunity. This was like in 2014, 15, and then he said, yeah, just come in. Cool. I went in. I didn't have a camera yet, dude, but I think I had just gotten it. I wasn't like a professional, but I got in, and then the first job I was a PA, and the first job I got was with Rick Ross and Migos, and this is like
Oh,
when
yeah,
they
yeah,
were
yeah,
like barely coming up, and then
yeah,
from there I met like well, it's Travis Scott when they weren't even like that popular,
yeah.
and I just worked with a bunch of other like random, well I guess they were kind of random then artists, and but it's crazy how just yeah, by knowing one person, it could change
The doors just opened up.
your whole career, whether that's
Yeah,
in
and
arts
I
or any
like
industry.
a lot of, yeah, like you said, like, you don't. I didn't go to school, of course. Like, I just told you, like, I dropped out. Like, I have no training with photography. Just essentially what I was like taught. That little bit I was taught by David is like the only training I have. Everything else, like, was just up until this point, man, has been me, honestly. Um, and it's been really hard. I'm sure there's some things that would have been like better if I learned, if I had gone to school or something like that. But I think it's not necessary at all for like photography. Um, I think if you do like the work essentially. Like if you go out of your way to, you know, learn and try things out and essentially, you
Mhm.
know, want to do it, yeah, it's possible.
And
Like I
and
don't
this
think
and this goes for video too. I mean, video.
there's a lot of creative fields that I think you don't need to go to school for realistically. Like some people I think are just like naturally gifted. Or they're just really hardworking and they're wanting to really do it. You know, like if you put your mind to it, there's like nothing is impossible, literally nothing.
Right.
You know,
And
um,
yeah, can you tell me how you got into working at the studio? You know, what brought you to that? You know, you mentioned that you were networking and you know, hey, I want to do that. You know, what these guys are doing, they're freelancing, they're working in studios. What
yeah.
made you get to that point, or what made you pull the trigger? And, you know what, I'm gonna do it. You know, and you know, maybe I don't know. I know you were working still at the construction, but you know, what
Yeah.
made you make this shift?
So, you know, I've been doing, like I said, photos for a couple of years now, and ever since the beginning, I've always wanted to make it like full time. You know, and that was like my goal was to make it like a full time thing. Um, there was like a lot of like setbacks for me. Of course, like I didn't really live near the city. I lived like about an hour 15 from the city or something like that. So I was kind of far from
Yeah,
Atlanta.
man, that sounds like the boonies.
Um, yeah, I wasn't really near the city, you know. Um, I guess that really shouldn't have held me back. Like I know locally, like there were still people doing like, you know, photo shoots for like families and stuff like that. Like essentially, you know, things I wasn't really interested in. Like I was more interested in like, you know, whether it be fashion or lifestyle and stuff like that, but like in the city, you know, like just specific looks. Like I wasn't really interested in taking photos of a family next to a barn, you know, like, and I was just, I think,
Next to
like
a
I said,
farm.
had I decided, you know what, like I'm not going to be picky and I'm just going to like, you know, get into it, I could have probably been doing it a lot sooner, but I just couldn't, I couldn't really, you know, get into that. Like that's not what I wanted to do. And also like, I think I was like 21, 22 years old. Like nobody was going to take me serious during that time. Like I was just like a young kid. Like I probably would get like jobs, but I think because of like the way my age and the way I look, I think most people probably would be like, "What? Like, where's the photographer? You know, like, who are you?" Um, but yeah, so I had been doing like a couple small things, you know, with some brands in Atlanta, and I did a couple of things with 404, which is where I'm at now. I used to take photos of their clothes, and I used to like model and stuff too. I didn't want to model, but it
So
was
you just
just
modeling too.
they needed, you know, somebody to model, so I was just like, yeah, I'll do it, you know.
Mhm.
Um, Bhargava, who is the CEO, my current boss right now, he had
Shout
a
out to Bargor.
yeah, shout out to Bhargava, huge shout out to him.
I met him one of the first Instagram mate that I ever went to, like I think 2015. And was
Yeah,
showing me how to use a lens, or I forgot, it was like a glass prime lens, and I was like, I had, you know, really
yeah,
brand new to it. I was like so mind blown.
yeah. He I met him like at my like third Instagram meet, man. Super cool guy. We like kind of just had like this connection since then, and yeah, he had basically he would tell me just like come in and stuff like that. Um, we had like already talked about an internship with him, like working with basically 404. But I guess, you know, at the time, like I said, I couldn't justify living all the way, you know, in Gwinnett County, which is, you know, where I lived, like I said, was like about an hour 15 away. That's if there's no traffic, you know. If there's traffic, we're talking about like an hour and a half more. So I couldn't justify just going all the way out there and like working. It just like, it wouldn't make sense for me. It couldn't happen. So I really wanted to, man, but like I knew it wouldn't work out. You know, like it just wouldn't be a
Yeah.
smart move.
So what happened that got you
So
working there?
yeah, man, I just kept working construction. I kind of actually almost gave up on photography to begin with. I mean, to end it all with, really. I wasn't really taking, like, it's 2017. I think like I took like almost no photos that year at all, man. Like I wasn't really, I had already stopped doing weddings. Um, I wasn't working with David anymore. Like he had essentially, he was going through some things in his life. So like he kind of like slowed down and everything. And I also kind of like started to not like weddings because I realized how much like there's a lot of pressure involved with him, you know.
So
Uh,
much pressure, man.
yeah, there's a lot of pressure, and I don't really necessarily like it. You know, there's, like I said, good things and bad things, and I just the bad things outweighed it. So I kind of wasn't really wanting to do like weddings anymore. So well, I guess not lucky for me, but you know, I kind of just like drifted away from him, and I was already well into doing like cityscape and stuff like that. Like I was already kind of like over like that. I really just wanted to focus on what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
But I was really I was going through like a lot of things in my life as well. I was still working in construction. I was super unhappy. I wasn't. I was just dealing with like a lot of confidence issues and stuff like that. Like I really didn't believe in myself, no matter how much people would tell me like my photos were like great and like, you know, and it meant a lot to me, you know, because again, like I didn't want to do this, you know, like I never considered photography or anything like that. So when people would tell me like, yeah, this stuff is like really like good, you know, like it was kind of hard for me to like be like, yeah, I can accept it, you know, like it was just in the back of my head, I got always be like, no,
What
like this
what
has
what
to be better.
what do you
This
think made it hard for you to accept it?
it's just my standards, like, you know, like as I was seeing so many like
Mm,
other like great photographers at the time,
like comparing yourself.
yeah, essentially just comparing, you know, and like I had already been on Instagram for a while, and like so I figured like the Instagram game, and like, you know, the Instagram game is like you have to be essentially on it all the time, you know, like you have to be super active, and
Mm.
I've never really been about that. I'm still not really about it. I know I should be getting better with it, but um, yeah, it was. I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
So you're losing your confidence, and
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. So
you had
yeah,
trouble with
essentially just like
confidence.
confidence issues, man. Like I didn't really believe like in myself, essentially, like or my talent. You know, I just thought like I can get better, I can get better, and I also was waiting for like a more. I was essentially waiting for this perfect situation to happen where like somebody was going to be like, "Yo, I'm going to give you this job. You're going to make a lot of money taking these photos of I don't even know what." Essentially, like I was just like, no, I was just kind of like waiting for something to happen, you know? Because like at the time, like I was getting like a lot of traction on my page, and like I was talking to a whole bunch of people, and like, you know, there was some things going on. Um,
What made you
but
realize that maybe wasn't gonna happen? Someone wasn't gonna be like, hey, you know,
yeah, no, no, no. Eventually,
let me
like,
save.
of course, like, you know, years have gone by, you know, like
Ah,
I
okay.
was still kind of like waiting for that situation, still kind of like doubtful of myself. Um, and last year, around this time, actually, I was super fed up, man. Like I was really, really in the dumps, like mentally. Like I wasn't doing very well. Like I really was unhappy. I was not. There was not many aspects of my life that I was enjoying, you know. But I still kind of just didn't want to give up on photography. You know, like I said, I had already kind of like really slowed down my photos. Like I was kind of like not feeling it anymore. But I had already invested like a good amount of my money and, uh, of course, a lot of my time into this. So uh, I kind of just snapped. You know, I was at I was at work one day, and I was just like, you know what, like this is it, man. Like I can't do it. Like I'm not gonna do this anymore. You know, like I was working by myself. I remember, man, I was just so frustrated. Like I was working, and like I just stood up and I like threw my tools on the ground, and I was like, fuck this. Like this is not for me. Like I have to do something about this. Like either I'm gonna like work in photography or I'm gonna, I don't know, but like I have to do something. You know, like I really just knew like I had to just take that leap. You know, so um, I knew Bhargava. Like I said, I had that connection with him. He had just got this like studio, and this new studio where I'm at currently. So it was like a bigger space. Of course, he needed more people, you know, because his team was expanding. He wasn't really looking for a photographer though, but like I just wanted to kind of like again just get in like get my foot in the door somehow. I was like, okay, well maybe I won't be a photographer, but like I could start doing something, and then eventually like he will need one, and I'll already be there kind of thing, you know.
Hmm.
So I got in contact with him. I called him up. I kind of explained to him a little bit of what was going on, how I was feeling. Super great guy, man. He essentially told me to come in. to a studio. So I went in like the next day or something like that. And I just basically like laid it all out for him, man. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm really unhappy, man. Like, I think my life is not, like, I'm not fulfilling anything, man. Like, I don't feel like anything is going anywhere. Like, I just feel like I'm in this like loop of just like bad thoughts and just not being like happy, you know? I
Mm.
just was really, really lost in a way. So he essentially was like, yeah, okay, like I'll take you in. So I, I was like, yeah, I was super stoked, man. Like we had talked it all out. Like we were gonna, like we figured, just like a way that it would work. Um, so I put in my 2 weeks, uh, quit my job, and I started working at the studio. Uh,
How's
it's
that been?
it has been a roller coaster, but it's been really good, man. Let me tell you, it's honestly like the best decision I've made in my life, I think, up until now. Um, the jump was really fast. Like I said, like I just like it was literally like I called him up one day, went to go see him like the next day, and then like I said, I put in my 2 week. I did actually. I'm sorry. I did a trial week first, and that went really well. Like I was like, yeah, this is cool. I already knew like I was like, you know what, regardless if I like it or not, like I'm gonna do this shit. Like I don't care, but I liked it, and like everybody
Yeah.
there was like, cool. Um, so yeah, I did my trial week, came back after my 2 weeks at my job, and I started working there. It was really weird for me actually, because of course, like I didn't realize what I did until I was there, and I was like, holy, like it just kind of like hit me, like yeah, like I'm in the driver's seat now, like I need to do something, you know. Um,
Your life changed over
yeah,
like
yeah,
overnight.
literally, like that's when like my mind state and everything just started like changing, man. I was really, really confused because I've never worked, of course, in an agency or a studio or anything like that. So I essentially had to learn a bunch of things in a short span of time, because I had this like I had this constant worry that if I wasn't keeping up, that I would essentially get cut from there, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because
So
they are like they're a working agency, man. So like they you know, you need to move. Like you can't just like.
right. So what kind of things are you doing there now?
I started off just doing like photos, of course. Um, just trying to like figure like that out, like how that would work with him. I started, of course, like with 404 and Chil Studios, and that was kind of like the entrance to it. But then I started doing things for the agency as well. So I essentially I am the jack of all trades. Like I can work for the studio, I could work for the agency, or I could be doing something for 404.
So what
But
what does that look like? What kind of
well,
things are you doing?
like I said, I just started taking photos, but then I started doing like content curation. Uh,
Mm.
then, of course, like that got led to um, managing like the studio and stuff like that. Like just I started off as an associate. Um, I would help give tours whenever someone wanted to check out the space, or I would just like if someone rented out the space, like I would be there kind of like as the guy that like helps them if they need anything, or if they needed to rent something or set up anything.
Gotcha.
Um, and with 404, like it was just like creating like events and stuff like that, like you know, meetups. We did this like pop-up as well, so like that, planning out, just essentially planning out like for 404. Bhargava at the time didn't really have anybody working like for that. Like he just essentially all his employees were working for Chil & Co, the agency.
Mm.
So he didn't really have anybody.
And the agency is like what exactly, like doing like marketing agency? Is that what you're talking about?
It's a content agency.
Okay.
Well, really, yeah, we do a lot of things there. We essentially, what we say is we solve creative problems. So
Okay.
that's kind of like the thing that we do there. But yeah, so with 404, that's mainly where I was like doing things. The studio still was like getting renovated. Like they were still doing things. Uh, but then obviously like we started having like rentals and stuff like that. So I started getting involved more and more with that. Um, for the agency and stuff like that, it was just like mainly like commercial work. So it would just be like, take photos of like certain things like at a property, or get
Mm-hmm.
like a drone video or something
Right.
like that. Um, it was a couple of things basically. There was always something going on for me, at least, because like either I'd be doing something here or something there. So it was just really busy. Um, and on top of that, I was working at a restaurant.
Oh, oh wow.
This was essentially I started off as an intern, and that was 3 months. And then after 3 months, you go to accelerated intern. So the first 3 months I was working there. I was going like 3 days a week, and then the the other 4 days of the week, I was essentially at the restaurant. So I was working Monday through Sunday, like every day. And I'm still doing that. Well, not right now currently, but when this is all over, I'll probably still go back to doing that. Um, so essentially, this has been super, super busy. But I'm really hoping that after this is all over, like I can just make the transition to just working at the studio. But we're kind of on lockdown right now, so it's
Right.
not working really well.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I love it, man. I love how the whole process of the story, the mental hurdles that you have had to overcome.
yeah, no,
And
it's been fun. It's
yeah,
been fun, but I've also like the amount I've learned, and as a person, as an artist, and just in general has been amazing. Um, I think education is probably the most important thing in the world. What I hated when I was younger, I now like respect so much. And you know to anybody out there, like for sure, like education, like no matter what, is like the best thing to do. Like
yeah.
the best thing that you can do is educate yourself.
I,
Go
I
go
would say
figure it
particularly
out.
like self-educating yourself.
Yeah.
There's a lot that they don't teach you in school. Like,
No.
like
Yeah,
90% of the things that you need to know,
there is
they're
a
not
ton of
taught.
things they don't show you in school, man. And like again, like I wasn't really doing well to begin with, but like I just knew that like
Maybe that's why you were frustrated. Because they weren't teaching you things that
essentially,
you needed.
yeah, because like those, I'm not gonna go into a store and like do an equation to figure out how to get milk. Like like nothing. I don't know. Like it's just there's a lot of things that I think academically I didn't really care about, because it's like, where in the world would I use that? Like I'm sure there is some use to it, but I knew I wasn't gonna get into any kind of field that like needed
Hmm.
this or that.
Yeah.
Like
Now, if you can go back, man, what would you change? To maybe speed up your process of like, all these years of like being lost. Not having the confidence that you needed. What would you change?
mm, what I definitely would have started doing this a lot sooner than I have now. I'm coming up on a year now.
What exactly? Like going to the studio or doing something like that?
No. I mean, well, I don't know whether it be at the studio, just in general, like just to make like the full switch. Like maybe I should have like
Mm,
taken those jobs like that I didn't want to do, because like I knew people that were like offering me like like I said, like family gigs and stuff like that, and like I didn't really want to do it. Like it wasn't something that I was interested in. But
you didn't want to
thinking
shoot the
it
little.
back,
You didn't want to shoot a little 1-year-old birthday party.
yeah, essentially, I wasn't really open to doing it, man. But I definitely should have like opened up to doing those things, because even if I didn't want to do it, the amount I could have learned, um, as a photographer, and
Yeah, even as a business owner.
yeah, even as just like business, and of course, like nothing that it wouldn't hurt, man, because like obviously, like you're essentially every time you do a job, it's like you learn, you're learning something, like you get something from it. Like at least for me, I feel like every time I do something, I learn something new, or
E-
I'll understand something new.
Even if
So
it's a baptism, man.
I probably should have done those jobs, and I probably should have uh, tried to apply with some at a studio or an agency or somewhere else. But of course, like my lack of education and my lack of willingness to do that was like the biggest problem.
Was you
And
saying was
if I could change
like a
something, it would
confidence thing
definitely
as
be.
well?
Yeah, absolutely. If I could change anything, it would be those things. It would be more confident. Definitely. I shouldn't have been picky with jobs. Because I was picky, and I I would
But
only do certain things, like I said, and I shouldn't have been doing that to begin with. Um,
mm.
but it is
I
what
mean,
it is.
one thing I even add, man, to that is like in the beginning, if you're really starting, I know like people even probably even do some free work, man, like just to get the portfolio going,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then to like
That's how
leverage.
I started, man. Like I just started like doing like things for really cheap or like just for free.
Hmm.
Again, it was just like kind of like to make that connection with people, and I think,
Right.
like I said, that's probably one of the most important things right now, especially like I think especially right now, because like if you are a nobody that has a God-given talent, like it literally means nothing, because like this person knows that person, and guess what, he's gonna get the job no matter what, how like the skill level doesn't matter, man. It's just like who they, I guess, trust, you know.
They trust, who they know, and how much work that mean that the work and then the work ethic behind it
Yeah, and
as
I
well.
mean, a lot of people just like nowadays, man, like I feel like people just don't care anymore now. Like it's just like I feel like they'll just like anybody can come and do this essentially kind of deal. For some certain companies and certain people, like I just noticed that like it's just about producing, you know, like it's just about money and numbers. Like it's not really about like quality of their content or quality of their products and stuff like that.
Mm.
But again, I mean, I'm just a photographer. I'm not a business owner. So
Yeah, not yet.
not yet, yeah, essentially. But
That'll be the next step.
I mean, hopefully, man, yeah, that would be dope.
Mm.
But
What
so
what's been the thing that you've learned most about yourself throughout this whole process?
I'm gonna say it again, confidence.
Confidence.
I really, really believe
Do
in
you feel
myself.
like that you've gained now? You've can you say that you're confident now in the work that you do?
I'd say about like 75%, yes,
Yeah,
as
man,
opposed to before where I was like
it's
30%.
progress. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I mean,
before I wasn't even like, it wasn't even like 50-50. It was like 30-70. Like
oh
30,
wow,
I believed in myself. 70 was like,
you're
you know,
doubting. Yeah,
all bad. But now for sure, yeah, no, I've definitely stepped up. I don't think like it's like bulletproof yet, but like I've
it's
definitely
getting
like
there.
I recognize my worth and like what I can do. Um, and
Yeah, no,
always like I've been around the community for long enough that I know like where to like shift towards or where I should be shifting towards, you know.
hmm.
Um, I
How
guess
does
that's
how would you recommend someone gain confidence if they're lacking confidence?
how you really just gotta beat on yourself, man. Like mentally, like you have to like really think about things, like thoroughly think about things. You know, like do you really want to do this? Like, are you really willing to, you know, give up this? Are you, you know, are you willing to do that? Like, it's
Mm,
just how willing you are to go and do it. You know, and
right.
if you're like, you know, if you're iffy about it, then you're probably not going to be doing all that well. Like, you really have to like step up and be like, okay, like I'm investing time into this. I'm investing money. I'm like, I have to like get some results, you know, like something's got to happen.
Right.
Um, I know that could be really hard when you're like starting and stuff like that, but like if you're going into it, like you just have to have that mindset. Like
You know,
you
I,
have to produce, and like you
yeah.
have to be confident. Like if you really like take your time to do it, like you should be proud about it. If it's good or bad, you know, um, it's really just like a something that's like up to you, I think, as a
Yeah,
person.
I had a professor once. I remember in college, I wasn't as confident then. I was like, man, I was like, how do you gain courage, or confidence? Because he said in life that you need to be courageous to win and to be successful. Really, that's what you need, being having the courage. And I was like, how do you become more courageous? And he just said, he's like, just win. He's like, I was like, win. It's like, win at what? He's like, everything. He's like, win at like how? It's like, he's like, just win at everything you do. Small things, like they'll build, they'll compound, and next you know you'll be confident. So that like with photography, just doing getting a small jobs, clients, whatever, just winning every single time that you do something with it. You know,
Yeah,
it
even if I mean, essentially, like you, even if it's doesn't feel like a win, you have to take it as a win, no matter what. Like that's really what it is. And like you said, like it's those little things that build up. You know, like
like
those little things are the things that I was like neglecting, and I didn't realize that like me neglecting those things was me neglecting my own confidence, my own like
right.
myself as an artist. You know, like I
And now that you've you know you it took confidence for you to leave the job, and it took confidence for you to reach out to Margot and then tell him the situation, and then get the internship job, and then stick through it a year. I mean, that's a confidence. And now I feel like if you lost it all, you could be able to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like right now, like with the situation we're living with, like it's a possibility that like, yeah, like I could lose it, you know, but even if I did lose it, like I can guarantee you, I'm not going back to construction. You know, I'm doing photos for the rest of my life, at least. You know, like I have no doubt about it, man. Like I said, the amount I've learned there, man. Like in this, it's literally about to be a year next month that I've been like officially working there.
Yeah.
So I think in this year, that just this year alone, I've learned more than like the last like 4 years or whatever, like
Or
of
just
photography. Just
you
like
just
I can honestly say maybe like in the first 6 months, like, you know, just from there until now has just been amazing, man. Like
you,
like I said, educate yourself.
yeah, I you know, if I could do it, I mean, I kind of was doing it, but if I can go back, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever, I just do everything just to learn, learn everything I possibly could about everything that I was interested in. I found
Yeah,
out right minute that I didn't really want to do video. I just could not. I mean, at least the editing part, I did not want to edit videos, edit like 3 seconds of a video for like 20 minutes, you know, like that. It wasn't for me. I didn't like editing. I still don't like editing like that. Video. But I don't know. It's
yeah,
just
it's definitely video is a challenge, man. Video just takes like much longer. Like photos, like of course, like I used to think like, oh, photos sometimes take a while, but then like I actually started realizing like video takes a while. I don't really have the patience for it either. Like I honestly haven't like delved too far into it. Um, but yeah, I know how much work goes into that, man. So respect
yeah.
to you for editing interviews because I know they're not like 10-minute processes. I'm sure it's a lot longer than that.
Yeah, definitely. Man, where can people find you, man, if they want to reach out to you, want to see your work, if they want to, maybe collaborate with you or check
I
out
am
the studio?
I'm the worst person on Instagram. I mean I'm not like I was more active back in the day. Right now it's like I post something here and there, but you could find me on Instagram at Querido Amigo, QUERIDO.AMIGO. The
Mm-hmm.
studio I work for is Chil Studios. Their Instagram is Chil Studios. It's Chill with one L, so CHIL Studios.
All
Um,
right.
the agents, and then of course, like the agency is Chill and Co. And that's straightforward again, Chill and Co.
Mm-hmm.
And 404.co. That's essentially all the realms that I'm delved into.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone should definitely check them out, please.
Yeah. When's the next meetup, man?
Well,
Well, well,
we're
well, I
having
guess it got pushed.
we're having virtual meetups right now
Okay, cool.
every month. So it's just like people just come into like a chat room and we kind of just like talk about like what's going on in the world, what's going on, like how people are feeling with what's going on, like what people are doing to like look for work still, or like how people are just staying creative because
Mm-hmm.
most people are still just hanging out at home and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
um,
cool.
yeah,
And then I have a last question before we wrap up, man. Um, from everything that you've gone through, I guess from all the way from California to now, it's like, what are you most proud of?
the fact that I never gave up on myself, is like the reason I left California was because like I knew like I couldn't, I could not, I would never amount to anything, like I would amount to essentially, going to jail or
Mm-hmm.
dying or being in a really bad position probably because like I wasn't, in the best of steps at the time. Um, so it's really been great for me to like, be where I'm at now because like I realize like I've always had this potential, man. Like I've always, you know, been really really good about work at work and just anything in general, man. I just didn't, like I said, I wasn't really interested and I honestly didn't believe in myself. But like there's a lot more to me than I thought, which again I think is like my greatest like success. It's just like where I'm at now, going from nothing to working at a studio, being a photographer. Like it's hard to call myself a photographer, but I am a photographer. um, yeah, so I think that's to me is like the greatest thing, man. It's just where I'm at now, and like it's just started, man. Like it's just starting, literally. So it's only gonna go up from here, man.
Love it, man. Love it, man. Well, I appreciate you, man. You jumping on the show, and man,
Appreciate
really
you.
proud of everything that you're doing, and that just keep going, man. And eventually, you'll be doing a lot bigger things, I'm sure. soon.
Yeah, man.
Hmm.
Let's hope this virus ends and we can start working again, right? Yeah.
Definitely, man. Cool, man. Well,
For a
man,
little,
thanks again, man. Though.
yeah. Take it easy, bro.
Cool.